Breaking news now on KCAL9 News at 4, happening in Claremont, where there has been an explosion.
Stu Mandel and Sky 9 are over the scene right now. Stu.
Well, so that's right. It came in as an explosion. When the firefighters first got here, they said there were wires down. This is all happening out in Claremont. This is the 220 block of West 12th Street. Take a look at the devastation. That house completely consumed in fire and now is pretty much just in rubble. Now, the fire department, they're here. They're investigating. They did have wires down, but there was a very large explosion here as well. Did the explosion cause the wires down or did the wires cause the fire? That's unclear at this moment, but an investigation definitely going to be underway. We know no injuries. The fire at this point, as you can see, is out. Live in Sky 9 over the Claremont area, I'm Stu Mandel. Back to you two in the studio.
Oh, glad to hear no injuries. That looks really bad. Stu, all right, thank you so much. There is a whale of an event taking place offshore in Sunset Beach. 2 wandering gray whales are putting on quite a show for that growing crowd out there. They've been out there all day, and people really just want to get a glimpse of the duo.
KCAL9 Orange County reporter Michelle Geely live in Seal Beach with a lot of excited people and some concerned officials. Michelle?
And now, you guys, we have an update. It seems that these 2 whales are separating. All day long, we have been watching them side by side, very close to open ocean at the mouth of the San Gabriel River. And now one of them, just within the last half hour or so ago, has been swimming upstream up to what's known as the Marina Bridge. That's about a quarter mile up the river, right behind where that group of people are behind me. As news choppers circled overhead, 2 gray whales played in the shallow surf near the mouth of the San Gabriel River in Seal Beach. It was a rare treat for the Talmadge brothers here on spring break from Chicago. Have you ever seen a whale?
Never, because I haven't been in the ocean for since I was a baby, and I didn't see a whale then, so this is my first time.
Seeing it out there just randomly, it's very mesmerizing.
It's the 2nd day in a row for a whale sighting. There was definitely one here Sunday. When lifeguards got to work this morning, the whale had brought a friend along. Both are about 25 feet long. A crowd on the jetty got an up-close view.
I was telling my boyfriend, why are all these people here? I was like, is it like a yoga class going on or something? And I was like, we need to check it out.
It was the thrill of the day in Seal Beach. As word spread, people kept on coming.
It's very exciting to see wildlife in action. I feel for them. I hope they get out to the open ocean soon.
A whale expert says this isn't too unusual, especially with the heavy migration of whales happening now along our coast. They look healthy and don't appear to be stuck. The massive mammals are known to duck into quiet waterways every so often. This may simply be a case of spring cleaning.
What they're generally doing is trying to rub the barnacles off their body. It's a natural behavior for them to come in close and rub themselves on the bottom, sandy bottom.
Back live now in Seal Beach. You're looking at the San Gabriel River. Lifeguards are keeping a very close eye on these whales. One of them is on a personal watercraft, and he's going up and down the river making sure that no boats or paddle boarders get near these big creatures. As we said, the whales have now separated. One is upstream, one closer to open ocean. Now it is just a wait and see game. The lifeguards say they have no plans to do anything with the whales at this point. Live in Seal Beach. Back to you.
All right, Michelle Geely reporting live. Thank you. And look here, a dramatic morning for some people living in the foothills of the San Gabriel Valley. Police warned them to stay inside while they captured this mountain lion. KCAL9's Lisa Siegel is live in Azusa, where she spoke with people about their brush with danger. Lisa.
Elsa, it was about 8:30 this morning when neighbors here got a very big scare. A mountain lion going between homes, gate after gate, backyard after backyard. For some people, it was simply too close for comfort.
And the animal rushed and went around, all the way around to the back.
91-year-old Phyllis Camarina was doing her dishes when she saw a mountain lion in her backyard.
Right here.
And then clawing at her side door.
He was big. He was big.
She quickly grabbed a chair to block the glass, then did her best to get the big cat to leave.
I said, go, go.
The 140-pound female adult mountain lion had many people on edge this morning. Police warning neighbors in the 600 block of West Virginia and Drive in Azusa to stay inside while she roamed from backyard to backyard.
It just stopped and stared. We kind of did a staring contest at each other.
Azusa police say to keep eyes on the big cat, they flew a drone overhead, capturing these images from up above. While they hoped she would leave on her own, she didn't. That's when wildlife officers decided to use a tranquilizer.
Blind in one eye's totally white. So we're not real sure how healthy it is. It hasn't been able to get out of here. So because of that, we went ahead and tranquilized it.
Wildlife officials say the mountain lion may have been confused and simply trapped in the neighborhood. Phyllis Camarina says she wants the animal to roam free, just not in her backyard.
No, I like them. They're beautiful, but not here. Not here.
And wildlife officials tell me right now they are in the process of releasing the mountain lion back into the wild. And it is healthy enough to do so, safely away from this neighborhood. Back to you.
That is good news, Lisa. All right, thanks so much. A woman who suffered 2 broken legs when a giant oak tree fell on her is still in the hospital. It happened yesterday as she walked along El Lado Drive in Glendale. Neighbors want the city of Glendale to do something about that grove of trees. But KCAL9's Jasmine Veal reports it's still unclear who owns the land.
We have wanted and asked, and I know my neighbors have actively pleaded with the city to come and take care of this area.
Stephanie Gia is one of the many neighbors on this Glendale street who says these large oak trees pose a real threat to their lives and property. Just yesterday, she heard this large tree come crashing down. A woman was pinned underneath one of the branches. A parked car also crushed.
My boys and I pulled into the driveway and we heard this really loud, crazy loud sound.
Melissa Walsh saw the woman identified by family today as Patricia Kennedy try to get out of the way.
You heard this crack and I saw the woman kind of step back, rock back just enough and cover her head, and the tree was on her. It was in seconds.
Family says Kennedy fractured both of her legs and 2 of her fingers. Doctors are worried about her legs working again. Neighbors say they've never seen any city workers come trim these trees.
Particularly where there's nearby structures and streets and things like that, they should be responsible enough to at least periodically have it inspected and looked at.
This neighbor who did not want to be identified pointed out an oak that is slowly tearing into his house, but he says the city won't let him do anything about it because these trees are protected.
Yeah, it's extremely thick. These are protected and they're beautiful. But in a situation like this, yeah, it's kind of scary.
The city of Glendale says their primary concern, of course, is for the woman who was hurt here. But it is unclear if it is in charge of all of this property. So right now the city is looking at maps to figure out who will lead this investigation and then hopefully bring these neighbors some reassurance. Here in the city of Glendale, Jasmine Veal, KCAL9 News.
Coming up on our sister station, CBS 2 News at 6 o'clock, we'll hear from the injured woman's partner.
No calm after this storm. A day after adult film actress Stormy Daniels told her explosive story to 60 Minutes about her alleged affair with President Trump, there is plenty of fallout. Daniels is now suing Trump's attorney for defamation, and he has filed a cease and desist order against Daniels. KCAL9's Weijia Jiang shows us what the White House is saying today.
The White House is not buying what Stormy Daniels said on 60 Minutes.
The president doesn't believe that any of the claims that Ms. Daniels made last night in the interview are accurate.
The adult film actress claims she had a one-night affair with President Trump in 2006, even though she has denied it in the past.
He's like, wow, you are special. You remind me of my daughter.
Daniels says years later she received a threat to keep the affair a secret.
A guy walked up on me and said to me, leave Trump alone, forget the story. And then he leaned around and looked at my daughter and said, it's a beautiful little girl. It'd be a shame if something happened to her mom.
Michael Cohen, President Trump's personal attorney, paid Daniels $130,000 of his own money in order to keep Daniels from telling her story. After she did anyway, Cohen's attorney says she lied throughout the interview. Daniels responded Monday with a lawsuit against Cohen, claiming he defamed her. Cohen says neither the Trump organization nor campaign was involved in paying Daniels. His attorney added President Trump did not reimburse Cohen, but he did call the president a third-party beneficiary.
That's to protect reputation, it's to protect family, and it's to protect business. That's what that payment is for. It has nothing to do with running for president.
President Trump tweeted Monday morning, "So much fake news, never been more voluminous or inaccurate." In Washington, Weijia Jiang, KCAL9 News.
Senator Mitch McConnell announced today that when he returns to Washington, D.C., he will introduce federal legislation to legalize hemp as an agricultural commodity and remove it from the list of controlled substances.
There was a lot of discussion about what is this? Is this the same as the illicit cousin? I think we've moved past that. I think most members of the Senate now understand it's two very different plants. There may be some continued discussion of that, but I think most everybody over the last course of the current Farm Bill now understands this is a totally different plant.
McConnell went on to say he plans to have discussions with Attorney General Jeff Sessions to emphasize the differences between hemp plants and marijuana plants. Sessions strongly opposes marijuana. Hemp crops have been grown on an experimental basis in more than 30 states since 2014.
After suffering their worst week in 2 years, stock markets went on a tear today. The Dow Jones rocketed nearly 670 points on news that the U.S. and China are negotiating a better trade deal, cooling fears of a trade war. The Nasdaq and S&P 500 then followed suit, with bank and technology stocks leading the way. Today's gains erased nearly half the ground that was lost last week.
Coming up next at 4, an investigation has been launched into Facebook's privacy practices, leading some to ask, could this be the beginning of the end?
Plus, a stunning development in the trial of the Orlando shooter's wife, what it means for her trial.
And orange snow will explain what's creating this natural phenomenon. Amber?
Interesting. All right, live look right now. This is our Santa Monica Pier camera. Not a cloud in sight, but the winds are picking up. I'll tell you just how long it's all going to last.
Already following CBS LA on Facebook? Follow these steps to make sure you continue to see our stories on your news feed. First, click on the triangle pointer in the top right corner of your Facebook page. Select News Feed Preferences. Then click Prioritize Who to See First and select CBS LA.